Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salaila Makwidi. The time is 7 minutes before the top of the hour. And this is our hashtag Africa Focus segment where we look at key developments that are shaping politics and policy across the continent. Today, we turn our attention to Nigeria, Africa's most populous country and its largest democracy, where a proposed mandatory voting bill has just been withdrawn following intense public backlash. The bill, which passed a second reading in the House of Representatives in Nigeria just 10 days ago, sought to criminalize voter abstention, something that we have as a very big problem here in South Africa. People not coming out to vote in their numbers. And essentially, it went about, trying to make sure people come out to vote, to criminalize voter abstention, imposing a 6-month prison sentence or a $63 fine on any eligible Nigerian who failed to vote. Its co-sponsor, House Speaker Abbas Tajuddin, said the aim was to revive civic participation and strengthen Nigeria's democracy, particularly in the light of the country's record low voter turnout, with just 27% participation in the 2023 presidential election, something that's very staggering. But then the move triggered swift condemnation from right groups, legal experts, and civil society at large, who labeled it draconian, impractical, and unconstitutional. They argue that compelling people to vote strips elections of their freedom and, well, undermines democratic integrity. So, what does this say about the state of democracy in Nigeria? Why are so many Nigerians staying away from the polls? And could this have set a dangerous precedent if it had passed? Joining us now from Abuja is Nigeria based journalist Imam Shuabe to help us unpack this latest political development. Imam, assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah so much for joining us. Welcome to Salam Media, and really excited to be chatting to you this morning.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning from Abuja, Nigeria.
No, a very, very, very good morning. Really excited to be talking to you, brother. Let's start with the basics. This bill, what exactly does it entail? What does it propose? And how close did it come to becoming a law in Nigeria?
Essentially, the bill to criminalize voter apathy or not voting was initiated by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas. It's aimed at encouraging or maybe making it compulsory for all voters to vote in elections, whether at the federal level or at the state level. The objective is to ensure that people participate in the electoral process by electing people of their choice during elections. So this is the objective. Statistics have shown that there is a decline in the number of voters turnout at polls since the return of democracy to Nigeria in 1999. Like you have rightly mentioned, about only 27% of the registered voters participated in the election that actually voted in the last election in 2023. So they are looking for a way to encourage people or to make it compulsory for people to participate in the election. This is the essence. And the bill have also reached the second stage of its reading. And at this stage, it got came under serious attack by civil society organizations, by rights groups, by lawyers, constitutional lawyers, as well as student organizations, that this is inappropriate, this is not the right step to take, and so on. Therefore, at that stage, the Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives has to withdraw the bill. And that was the stage we are now, or that is the stage we are now.
The government says it withdrew the bill after consultations with a broad spectrum of stakeholders. From your perspective in Abuja right now, what kind of public and maybe institutional pressure ultimately led to this U-turn by the government?
Yeah, of course. The usual thing is the usual style is to just without contacting or consulting the people, they will forward the bill. Now, when it got this backlash, and then there is a U-turn that okay, they consulted people after consulting wide spectrum of stakeholders. But the idea is that what is the reality is that it came under serious attack, by civil society organizations. For instance, we have the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERA, attacked it, and specifically it said this law is oppressive and repressive, arguing that this type of law is infringement, or it's an infringement on the constitutional rights of individuals, because they have the right to vote and they have also have the right not choose not to vote. So if you are making it compulsory, then that means that you are denying them of their freedom to either vote or not to vote. We have also seen student organizations like National Association of Nigerian Students, they even call this the bill ridiculous and laughable. That this is not the appropriate thing. They are just trying to treat the symptoms and not the diseases. And we have also seen that legal experts sharing their own opinion that this is unconstitutional to force people to vote, and this is they consider it to be antithetical to make it compulsory for people to vote. So essentially, a lot of people are against this because the government just try to treat the symptoms while leaving the disease itself aside. Because what the government should be looking at is why the voter apathy. Why are people not willing to vote? And of course, you have a lot of factors that have made people, they have lost confidence in the system and the electoral process. We have violence around sometimes electoral malpractices because people talk about the vote and then the election ended up being rigged against other government officials. And so essentially there is, voter apathy as a result of these factors I have mentioned.
Mm. Mm. Let's talk about how bad voter apathy is in Nigeria. I mean, I just saw the numbers that in the previous presidential elections, only 23% or only 27% showed up in 2023. What are some of the main reasons Nigerians are just choosing not to go out and vote?
Yes, like I have mentioned, one of the reasons that daily they are beginning to lose confidence in the process. So if people have confidence in the process, they feel that their votes count. And if their votes are counted, it will also count. It makes them or encourages them, to vote. But if they lose confidence in the process, there is no way they will put in effort. Number two is sometimes you find, elections characterized by violence. A lot of people have lost their life during election day because of electoral violence, and of course the government is unable to protect them during the process. Number three, you will discover that the election process is also cumbersome. As the world is advancing, the electoral process is supposed to be easy. The electoral process is supposed to be seamless. People go up till now in Nigeria, people still go up, queue up in the sun. They have to come out as early as 4 a.m. so that they can queue up on to vote for people. And sometimes they end up staying in that line, trying to vote for, from morning till evening. And after all these difficulties in the voting process, elections get rigged also. So all these factors put together are responsible why we are still experiencing, voter apathy.
Mm, mm, mm. From a logistical point of view, I want to go back to this proposed bill now. Would it have been possible to enforce it as a law, given Nigeria's very, very big population and also some of the shortcomings in voting infrastructure that you mentioned?
Yeah, essentially, like we said, maybe I need to borrow the words of, the NAS. They said this bill is ridiculous and laughable. When you have 23% turning out for the 2023 election, so what do you want to do? You want to arrest 77% of people that did not turn out? Where is the prison to arrest them? Where is the court to prosecute them? What is the process of prosecution? So these things were not well thought out because logistically or logically it is illogical. Because, for instance, if you have 23%, 27% turning out to vote, do you want to arrest 73%? Where do you prosecute them? Are you going to drop all the court processes and then begin to prosecute these millions of people? So if you prosecute and then convict them and you say you want to subject them to a maximum of 6 months imprisonment, where is the logistics? Where are the prisons to take these people? What about their feeding? What about their health care? What about all these processes? And then if you want to find them, that you want to find them 100,000 Nigerian naira or $63. So what is the average per capita income of Nigeria? How many of them can afford? How much is the minimum wage? Minimum wage is just 70,000 naira that some states are still battling to pay. So where can these people afford this? That means that majority of the people would go to prison. So where is the logistics? So we say logically it is illogical to say that you want to imprison about 73% of the people who refuse to vote, running into millions of people. As we speak, we are talking about the prisons are congested. So where do you want to accommodate these people? So it's illogical to believe that you want to imprison people for up to 6 months.
And just lastly, before I let you go, what does this controversy, if I can call it that, reveal about the state of democracy in Nigeria today? And what are some of the key lessons might other African democracies draw from it? Because I think we still look up to Nigeria. It's the continent's largest democracy. And I'm sure there are some key lessons that the rest of the continent can take from the recent happenings there.
Yeah, essentially, like we said, democracy has ethics. So first thing we need to do is to ensure that we imbibe by the ethics of democracy. We ensure that elections are free and fair. And for elections to be free and fair, the government must provide the necessary facilities and technology to be able to ensure that these things are transparent and these things are seamless. Election process can be done electronically without actually appearing physically. And of course, where there are instances or exceptional cases, we can do physical voting. So we should abide by electoral ethics. We should ensure that elections are free and fair. We should ensure that the votes of people that are counted also count. So votes should count. This will encourage people, because the more people have confidence in the system, of course, the more they will participate. If I know that if I vote, my vote will count, there is no point for me to sit back. If I know that our number and it is taken into consideration, of course, we'll ensure that will come out. And that is why in the places where there is a lot of voter education, there's a lot of awareness creation. So you will see that the turnout is better than other places where there are no voter awareness created. So the government should also create more awareness about electoral processes and make the process easier for people to participate, and this will encourage them. And this is the lesson that other African countries, should take. And of course, we have seen, cases of, people truncating democracy. This is because they find that this democracy is not working for them. They are not getting the dividend of democracy, and that is why the military are, taking over, and people are comfortable, with the electoral, with the takeover, because the military government is doing exactly what the people want. So even though we are supporting, military reports, democracy should also take lessons from these governments, the military government that are doing exactly what people want them to do, so that once they apply it in their democratic setting, everything will go well.
No, definitely. Imam, I think we're going to leave it on that note. Thank you so much for chatting to us and giving us insight on the latest in Nigeria. And hope we chat again in the not so distant future.
Thank you so much for having me.
There you go. Yeah, I think really, really important conversation there with Imam Shuabe. He's a Nigerian-based journalist out in Abuja. And I think, as he's speaking, I'm trying to draw parallels with South Africa as we close our hashtag Africa Focus conversation. Nigeria may have walked back its controversial mandatory voting bill, but the question it raises lingers far beyond its borders, as I mentioned, drawing those parallels between us here in South Africa and in Nigeria. I think in many ways we can call them our counterpart. Looking at the economy and just the practice of democracy and how it's the rule and the law of the land. Here in South Africa, we are not immune to the same troubling trend. Our own voter turnout has plummeted quite drastically. I was reading the stats while I was busy doing the research for this show, and back in 1999, there was a 89.3% voter turnout in those elections. 89.3%. And just last year, in the 2024 general elections, it plummeted to 58.6%. So this essentially translates to nearly 28 million registered voters. Only 16.2 million showed up to cast their ballots. This is last year. And I don't think these are just numbers. I think this is a warning also. So we must ask, is South Africa facing a democratic crisis of participation also? And if so, what's the solution? Should we, like Nigeria, maybe briefly attempt or consider mandatory voting as a tool to revive civic engagement here in South Africa? Or does that simply mask the real issues like public disillusionment, a lack of trust in our political institutions, and just the general failure of political parties to inspire meaningful change? Sure, forced voting might get numbers up, but does it build a stronger democracy? Or does it erode the very freedoms that democracy promises? Because, you know, democracy essentially is freedom of choice. Yeah. As always, want to hear from you. Should voting be a right and a duty in South Africa? Should we consider mandatory voting? AX, mandatory voting? Thumbs up? No? The technical producer X says no to mandatory voting. So we want to hear from you. What do you think? Should we consider that voting, to be a duty in South Africa? Or, if you don't want to vote, if you don't want to stand in the long lines and not participate in civic duty and the democratic process, which I should mention that there are thousands and thousands that have lost their lives for it, you can engage with us. Our WhatsApp line is 061 or you can call us on our studio line. If you want to engage with us directly, it's 011-680-0355. And we already have a comment that has come through, and this is on our WhatsApp line, and it's coming from Faisal. He says, democracies are hypocrisies. The leadership fails us. Do you agree with that narrative? Do you maybe think there should be another system that we should be putting in place instead of constitutional democracy? Because no one said this is set in stone, right? I mean, you can see Farad there with his party saying, maybe we should take the route of Sharia law as the rule and governance system of South Africa. Islamic State of Africa is going to be the new party that you might be seeing in your ballot paper when you go out to vote in the local government elections next year. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think we should consider that, or we should leave things as they are? People choose to vote when they feel that they should, and maybe not voting in itself is a message. It's loud. As I mentioned, as always, want to hear from you. Should voting be a right and a duty in South Africa? WhatsApp as 061-766-0355. Or you can join the debate on our various social media pages using the hashtag news and views. From Nigeria's policy reversal to South Africa's own voter fatigue, the future of democracy on this continent may depend not just on how we vote, but why we choose to show up at all, which I think is more important. This has been our hashtag Africa Focus feature. Stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay thinking. We're going to take a quick break. News and views will continue after this.